Hey, good morning. Uh, Still in our series, Act Like Men from 1 Corinthians 16:13, and looking through 1 Corinthians through those lenses, and we're in chapter 7. And chapter 7 is actually pretty lengthy, a lot to it. We may do two parts to it, but specifically, I want to talk about the first part of chapter 7. I'd say chapter 7, 1 through 16. It is speaking specifically about marriage and all that. Well, not all that it entails, but a significant part of it. And 1 through 5 specifically talks about sex, and it says. Um, uh, uh, but because of the temptation of sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife and each woman her own husband. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband, for the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time, that you may devote yourselves to prayer, but then come together again, so that Satan may not tempt you because of the lack of self-control. What I read when I see that is that it's supposed to be selfless. Um, the intimacy between a husband and a wife should be selfless, and since this is looking through the lens of acting like men, your sexual relationship with your wife should be selfless. You should take her needs and her desires into consideration in those in that context. Now, look, I'm not talking about women. Obviously, it's mutual, right? Paul says it's mutual. It's for both. But I'm speaking specifically to men here, and your sex life, what you give to your wife, you should give generously and sacrificially, and take her needs into consideration. That's something I talk to young men about in premarital counseling and stuff. Is that your wife should understand all the pleasures of the physical relationship, and it shouldn't just be about you and your satisfaction. Um, Paul obviously goes on, says, I wish that all were as myself, but each has his own gift from God, one of one kind, one of another. He's talking about, he would desire people not be married, but since he knows there's the challenges of sexual sin and everything else, that he encourages it. But it's just really a good challenge, and Paul's not afraid to enter that. Um, he talks about separation and divorce and everything else. And look, divorce is, he said, I give charge, not I, but the Lord. The wife should not separate from her husband, but if she does, she should remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband. And the husband should not divorce his wife. Look, that's how seriously Jesus takes a marriage covenant. If your marriage is selfless, if you are giving generously to each other, if you are making each other a priority, um, your marriage is going to be better. Divorce isn't even an option. Infidelity isn't even an option. You're not going to go out and have an affair because you are giving generously to each other. You're taking each other's needs into account. Philippians 2, 3, and 4, do nothing from selfishness or vain conceit, but in everything consider other people more important than yourself. You are considering your spouse more important than yourself. And if it is mutual, both of you are doing it, it is an incredible experience, incredible relationship. It's not always going to happen that way, but if you are working on it and taking the effort and putting the work into it, it will be that way most of the time, and it's worth it. It is worth it. So I'm going to stop there in chapter 7. I'll do a part 2 to chapter 7, but yeah, that's the challenge for today, is being generous with your spouse. So hey, God bless.